You've seen a lot of different aspects of the journey. I couldn't agree more with Peter on the vision and the way it's going to disrupt financial services. I disagree with him that he is the leading digital bank. We are, but that's for the drinks. But what I will focus on in this presentation is about the journey and the lessons learned. So. Just to give you some context, SEB is a Nordic bank, and we've chosen to view our vision as to be a world-class service company to our customers. And there is no banking. We don't want to be the leading bank. We don't want to be the number one digital bank. We want to be a world-class service company. And that says a lot about how we view things and why our management and ourselves we've tried to be early on this journey, because it's not about being a better banking, it's about creating service in a world-class context. So, just to give you some very, the DNA of SEB is very much the business-to-business bank. It is the bank of the Ericsson, the Electrolux for 150 years. So it's traditional. We're publicly listed, but we have a very strong owner. And I concur a little bit with what Peter was saying. I think it's very important to have a long-term view in order to be able to invest into that. Whether you're publicly listed or not, if you are submitted to the quarterly dictatorship, it's very difficult. And I agree with that. So we're publicly listed, but we have a very strong owner in the Wallenberg family. And trading and financial institutions is a little bit our most successful area. But we have still a substantial private individual business, and that's a little bit the story I will talk about. So wind back the clock to 2014, when we had discussions with Chetan and the team, and we said, okay, we would like to try that. That would be interesting. What we were looking after is both the AI and cognitive capabilities that my colleagues and competitors have talked about, the scalability, which was also mentioned. What if we could, rather than employing 200 people, what if we could use Amelia? What if we could use Amelia in order to launch in a new country? The scalability of that. And the availability 24/7, which also was mentioned. So those were the three first parameters. Okay. This solution could help us do something neat. So in the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, we started with the internal IT service desk. Not the full-blown one desk like Garrison and Carestream have built, but a small case regarding how can I reset my password, I forgot my password. So if you have been to Sweden, or if you're Swedish, you know that on Monday morning after a weekend of heavy drinking, people forget their password. So that's the use case here. Come on. And the surprise there was that in about 6 weeks, we had a very good case that we actually launched between the beginning of 2016 and until the summer. We had a successful case. It was in English. It worked quite well, and we could shave off the peaks on the Monday morning regarding the unlock account and password, and then actually do all the process only with Amelia in a very short time. So that gave us the inspiration to say, okay, this is very interesting. Why don't we try that on our external customers? And that was a little bit the bet that the management team did. And we launched a little less than a year ago. The first dialogue with the customer in a silent launch. And during the year that we've passed, we have added some functionality and perfected the language. So we did it in Swedish, which increased complexity radically. We have been able to do a number of help and even booking meetings, etc., with Amelia. Parallel to that, we also established a center of excellence because we chose to actually develop the teaching of Amelia internally and not through a consulting company. So that's the basic backdrop. So this is what it looks like. It's been translated into English. So if you want to test it and you can Swedish, you can test it on seb.se and go there. And here's an example of the chat that you've seen. So I'm not going to go through that, but this is an example of locating an office and booking a meeting with a customer rep as an example. But you can also start having help in the process, like Norded does in the customer onboarding. There are a number of things you can do with that. I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to dwell on the lessons learned and the surprises. So, as Philippe mentioned, one of the I'm going to stand there so that you don't read the answers. Our preconceptions about the thing is that we're in Sweden, very strong unions. We're going to have a lot of employee resistance. People are going to go against that. It's going to be job protection. It's going to be difficult. It happened that it was the contrary, and especially during the service desk experience, the people working in the service desk are young people. They are not planning on doing a career in the service desk. And they're very happy to give away repetitive tasks, being answering to password reset on the morning to a robot. So the employees were very enthusiastic. And this is key, because the people who are going to train Amelia in your organizations, if you use it, are the ones who are working with the subject. They are the ones who are going to be the customer reps. So that's very important to use it also as a tool, because if you approach it the wrong way, you will get employee resistance. Another preconception, which was more a philosophical one, is that Swedish and English are similar language. We can have ready to use, and it is going to work. What we discovered is that the language is not necessarily the problem. The context that you use the languages is. So when we tried to build an Amelia that was to be a complete customer rep online, we found a number of different meanings for certain Swedish words that pushed in the wrong process. So in terms of training, you have to train not only the language, but you have also to train the context in which you use the words. So that was more work than we thought from the beginning. On the other hand, and that was a positive surprise, the ease of use of Amelia meant that we could have the business doing the whole work. So compared to a tool that you have to use teams, IT teams, in order to program, we could actually put our phone banking people, or customer-facing on the phone reps, to actually go through the Amelia log every night, and that's what they do, and to correct or to add some knowledge. They can do that themselves, which makes the process much more efficient, which means that even if we were a little bit surprised or taken aback by the fact that we had to work more on that, it's very, very quick to learn. So that's also we thought it would be hard to learn the banking process, but it's in between the meaning of the words and the banking process that you find the difficulty, but it's so easy to use that it goes very quickly to adapt. We also thought Amelia as a digital employee. What we found is that Amelia has become a new channel. The people who are going into Amelia are not the same that are going to phone to the bank. And I'll talk about that in the next slide, which is the summary of our, which is more what happens when you put an Amelia in front of a human being and in front of a customer. So let me tell you a little bit of story. During the summer, I was working with a German. I was doing some research regarding AI with a German company that makes cars. They're called Mercedes, and we were discussing with the CEO, and we decided to make a little survey. They are going to launch, like every big company, big manufacturing company of automobiles, they are going to launch self-driving cars. So we had a panel, about 500 people working with us, and we asked them 2 questions. One, how likely are you to use a self-driving car, and how likely are you to use a robot for financial advice? I would like a guess on the percentage of yes. Anybody? The drinks are waiting, so you better come up. How many people for self-driving cars? 80%, right. How many people, that's actually spot on, about 80%, right? How many people willing to have financial advice from a robot? 20%, good crowd. I was like, okay, so 80% of the population is ready to put their lives into the hand of a robot, but to talk about money, I don't trust that. I would like to have a human. So, that's strange. And that relates a little bit about Gerson's story, is that depending on what you want to have, the trust is not the same. Trust is something very complicated. You trust a machine to be reliable to take you from A to B, but you trust a human because if there is something wrong that you can control, you have somebody to talk to. And that makes the interaction between the robot and the human on the customer side for a bank a little bit special. So what we noticed was a new customer behavior when we entered the journey. Our customers were pleased to interact with the chat. They thought it was cool and it was new and it's disruptive, as Peter was saying. So far, so good. But we faced totally new customer behaviors. We had basically 50% that were, that's good, I don't have to talk to a human, and 50% that said, that's really crap, I think it's fake. And when we did some research, we noticed that there is an age difference, because that's coming. There is also a sex difference. Women are less, and the fact that Amelia is impersonated, or in our case, Aida, as we call her, is a little bit a woman in the mind, can have some influence on that. We didn't do the research to prove that, but it was very much black or white. We didn't have, the Gauss curve where we would think that most people find it as a normal kind of neutral channel. It was generating emotions in a way that we didn't, and generating emotions in the financial industry is something. Yes, we can generate emotions in 2008. That we can do, but it's not an emotional business as you would think, but it is. And what was more surprising is that we had access to a totally new group of customers, which were more young people, who they don't want to talk to a human at all. So if you say to them, in order to become a customer, come and visit us in our office, or phone the phone bank and they're open 24/7, they will not show up. They want something that they can do without talking to a human. So my point regarding that is that the fact that you put a robot or an AI or an Aida or something that is automated in front of a customer changes the way you interact, and it changes the relationship you have with that customer. And although it may be very easy to do that internally, because then you don't have when Amelia or Aida in our case represents the bank, it becomes something completely different. Because every mistake that she made or every misunderstanding is the bank's, and the people treat her as a human. And when we tried, for example, to put some analysis of sentiment, and we got a feedback that people thought that it was fake because they knew it was a robot saying, I'm sorry, and robots can't be sorry. So even when you are on the phone and you know that somebody says, oh, I'm sorry that you lost your card, it could be fake, but it's acceptable because it's a human. But if it is a robot, it's not acceptable. So it generated a lot of discussions and also reflections from our part. You have to think about these things and you have to try, is basically my message. Don't think that it's going to be a one-to-one, because you're changing. It's a new channel and you're changing the way you interact with your customer. You're putting everything on a new channel, and it generates new behaviors. What we're doing right now is very much in the same direction as Peter, to look into more advanced process and explore new areas. So I will come back next year with some new learnings. And I think that's all for me.